I stared at my father's text one last time. After your behavior at Christmas, you're not welcome at family dinners anymore. Don't bother coming to Golden Crown on Sundays. We don't want to see you. The irony made me smile. Golden Crown wasn't just their favorite restaurant chain. It was my latest acquisition. The $3 billion deal had closed quietly last week. Another silent addition to my growing empire. The behavior they were so upset about? I dared to suggest that my brother Tom's investment scheme sounded illegal. Turns out I was right. The SEC was already investigating him, not that my family would listen. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from my sister Kate. How dare you accuse Tom of fraud? Until you apologize, you're not part of this family. If they only knew that their precious Golden Crown was just a small part of my $40 billion restaurant and hospitality group. Or that their son's brilliant investment opportunity had been on my corporate legal team's radar for months. I checked my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe worth more than their house, and made a decision. It was Sunday 6 p.m. Time for their weekly family dinner at Golden Crown's flagship location. James, I called to my chief of security, have the car brought around. The Honda or the Rolls, Ms. Morgan? The Honda. I smiled. Let's keep things interesting. I smoothed down my simple black dress, a custom Chanel piece that cost more than their monthly mortgage, and headed for the elevator. My shabby office, as Kate loved to call it, occupied the top 3 floors of the Morgan Tower downtown. Not that they'd ever visited. 20 minutes later, I pulled into Golden Crown's parking lot, noting my family's cars already there. Dad's leased BMW, Tom's flashy Porsche he couldn't really afford, Kate's suburban SUV. They'd be at their usual table, the one they thought was the best in the house. As I walked in, Marcus, the maitre d', rushed forward. Ms. Morgan, we weren't expecting you tonight. Shoo, I pressed a finger to my lips. I'm here, unofficially. My family's here. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He'd been there when I'd signed the acquisition papers, had watched me personally redesign the entire menu and restaurant concept. They're at table 7, he whispered. Your brother just ordered the wine, the house red. I suppressed a smile. The house red was actually a vintage I'd personally selected, worth hundreds per bottle. Not that they knew that. Give me table 8, I said quietly. The one with the perfect view of their table. Of course, Madam Owner. I settled into my seat, accepting the real wine list, the one reserved for VIPs that included bottles worth thousands. Through the elegant partition, I could hear my family's conversation clearly. Can you believe her nerve? That was Kate, always ready to criticize. Accusing Tom of fraud. As if she knows anything about business. Tom's laugh carried across the restaurant. Pretty rich coming from someone who couldn't even keep a real job. What's she doing now? Some pathetic consulting thing. If they only knew that pathetic consulting thing was Morgan Global Enterprises, currently valued at over $100 billion. The consulting office was just a front for my real operations. At least she's not here to ruin dinner, my mother sniffed. I told the staff we're her family, you know. They seemed impressed. I caught Marcus's eye and nodded. Time to begin the show. He approached their table with his most professional air. Good evening. I understand you're the Morgan family. Yes, my father said proudly. Alexandra Morgan is our daughter. Though we're not speaking to her right now. Ah, Marcus's eyes flickered to where I sat. That's interesting. Would you like to see the owner's special menu? Owner's special? Kate perked up. Well, as her family we should get that, right? Of course, Marcus kept his face carefully neutral. And perhaps Madam would like to select something from our private wine cellar? As Ms. Morgan's family. Absolutely. Tom puffed up. Bring us your best bottle. Just then, every phone at their table buzzed simultaneously with a breaking news alert. I watched as they reached for their devices, confusion turning to shock as they read the headlines. Breaking news. Morgan Global acquires Golden Crown Restaurant Group in $3 billion deal. Mystery CEO expands empire into dining sector. Wall Street stunned as Alexandra Morgan reveals latest acquisition. The sound of shattering glass cut through the sudden silence. Kate had dropped her water glass, sending crystal shards across the pristine tablecloth. Perfect timing. I stood up, smoothing my dress, and walked slowly toward their table. Hello, family, I said softly. I believe you're sitting at my table. The silence at the table was absolute. 5 faces stared up at me in varying stages of shock and disbelief. My mother's perfectly manicured hand clutched her pearl necklace, the one she'd bragged about Dad buying her last year. I'd bought the entire jewelry chain where he'd purchased it 3 months ago. This is some kind of joke, Tom finally managed, his face turning an interesting shade of red. You can't own Golden Crown. It's worth billions. 3 billion to be exact, I corrected, taking a seat at their table uninvited. Though that's just the purchase price. The real value after my planned expansions will be considerably more. Kate's husband David, who hadn't said a word yet, was frantically Googling on his phone. Morgan Global Enterprises. Alexandra Morgan, net worth estimated at. Those estimates are low, I interrupted softly. They don't know about the private holdings. Marcus appeared at my elbow. Madam Owner, shall I bring your usual wine selection? Yes, thank you, Marcus. And please let Chef Jean know I'd like the full tasting menu for the table. I turned to my family. Unless you'd prefer to keep pretending you've banned me from dinner? My father's face had gone from red to purple. You bought our favorite restaurant? I bought the entire chain. All 300 locations. I adjusted my simple diamond bracelet, a piece that cost more than their combined annual salaries. Along with several other restaurant groups you might recognize. The Capitol Grill, Morton's, Ruth's Chris. But you drive a Honda. Kate sputtered, gesturing toward the parking lot. That Honda is a one-of-a-kind prototype, I smiled. Their CEO gave it to me after I acquired controlling interest in their autonomous vehicle division. Would you prefer I arrived in the Rolls? Or perhaps the Bentley? Marcus returned with a bottle of wine that made my father's eyes bulge. Your personal reserve, madam. Shall I decant it? Please. I watched as my family tried to process what was happening. By the way, Tom, how's that investment scheme of yours going? The one I knew nothing about? Tom's swagger suddenly vanished. That's none of your business. Actually, it is. You see, when you approached Anderson Financial about backing your project. I paused, letting it sink in. I own them too. You what? My mother whispered. Anderson Financial is a subsidiary of Morgan Global. Has been for about a year now. I took a sip of the perfectly decanted wine. So when you tried to secure funding for your, let's call it what it is, your Ponzi scheme? Those rejection letters came from my office. The color drained from Tom's face. You can't prove. I have every email, every document, every fraudulent proposal you submitted. I pulled out my phone, showing him the folder marked Thomas Morgan EC Investigation. Did you really think nobody would notice you were promising 300% returns on non-existent investments? Kate tried to rally to her brother's defense. How dare you spy on family? Tom's a brilliant businessman. Tom's a fraud, I cut in coldly. And you knew it, didn't you, Kate? That's why you pulled your investment out last month. Right before you convinced Mom and Dad to put their retirement savings in. My parents' faces went pale. Kate, my mother turned to her. What is she talking about? Oh, they didn't know? I raised an eyebrow at my sister. About how you got tipped off that the scheme was collapsing. About how you pulled your money out but encouraged them to invest their life savings. David was still staring at his phone. This can't be real. Morgan Global owns half the commercial real estate downtown. 3 major hotel chains, tech companies, banks. The expensive stakes lay forgotten as my family struggled to process their new reality. Through the restaurant's windows, I could see my security team's black SUVs arriving, standard protocol once my identity was public at a location. The other diners were trying not to stare, but their furtive glances and whispered conversations made it clear the news was spreading. Before we proceed, I said, pulling out my tablet, let's discuss exactly what Morgan Global's forensic accounting team has uncovered. The restaurant's TVs, mounted discreetly on the walls, were now showing breaking news. Morgan Global CEO revealed. Alexandra Morgan steps into spotlight. Wall Street stunned as restaurant empire adds to portfolio. Mystery billionaire's identity shocks financial world. First, I continued, pulling up detailed financial records. Let's talk about your current situations. Tom, shall we start with your investment scheme? The one that's currently under SEC investigation. Tom's expensive suit couldn't hide his growing panic. How do you know about the SEC? I know about it because I'm the one who alerted them, I said calmly. The forensic accounting team at Morgan Global flagged suspicious transactions flowing through our banking network 3 months ago. Did you really think you could hide money movements that large? That's confidential, he sputtered. Nothing is confidential from the owner, dear brother. I swiped to another document. Just like nothing is confidential about Kate's role in your fraud. Kate went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. The emails warning your preferred clients to pull out? The backdated withdrawal forms? The forged signatures? I raised an eyebrow. Did you think we wouldn't notice when you used company computers to create fake documents? My father tried to rally to his children's defense. Now see here, Alexandra. Oh, we're getting to you, Dad. I cut him off. Should we discuss the tax fraud at your consulting firm? The fake invoices? The shell companies registered in Mom's name. My mother's hand shook so badly she had to set down her wine glass. My name? Mom, please, I smiled slightly. You signed half the paperwork. Those shell companies you registered as CEO? The ones you claim never to have heard of? The IRS is very interested in those. Marcus appeared with another bottle of wine, a rare vintage that cost more than their monthly mortgage payments. Madam Owner, the governor is asking if you'll join him in the private dining room later. He wanted to discuss the state investment fund. Tell him I'll be there shortly. I turned back to my family. Now let's discuss your options. I reached into my Hermes bag worth more than their cars combined, and pulled out 5 envelopes. Inside each envelope, I continued, you'll find 2 choices. Choose carefully. Your futures depend on it. Choices. My father's voice cracked. Option 1. Cooperate fully with the federal investigations, return all fraudulent gains and accept positions in one of my smaller companies, starting at entry level of course. Entry level? Kate screeched. I'm a senior vice president. You're unemployed, I corrected. Your position was obtained through fraud and nepotism. That ends today. And option 2? Tom asked, his face ashen. Is simple. Face federal prosecution without my intervention. The evidence goes to the SEC, FBI, and IRS unchanged, and you deal with the consequences alone. Through the restaurant's windows, I could see more black SUVs arriving, government vehicles this time. But where will we live? Kate's mascara was creating black rivers down her cheeks. Our houses, our cars. Were all purchased with fraudulent funds, I finished. They'll be seized, of course. But Morgan Global maintains corporate housing for employees in transition. Small apartments but clean and safe. The kind of places honest working people live. This is insane, Tom stood up suddenly. I'm calling my lawyer. Your lawyer works for me now, I said mildly. Morgan Global acquired his firm last month. In fact, I pulled up another document. We found some interesting communications between you two about those offshore accounts. He's already agreed to cooperate with the investigation. My phone buzzed again. Messages from various world leaders and business titans about the revelations. The president wanted a briefing. The British Prime Minister had questions about UK investments. You have until midnight to decide, I said, standing up. Choose wisely. Wait, my mother called out desperately. All these years, why didn't you tell us who you really were? Why let us treat you like that? I turned back, surveying the ruins of our family dinner. I tried telling you. Remember last year when I offered to invest in Dad's business? You all laughed and said I didn't understand real money. When I suggested Tom's investment strategies seemed questionable, you called me financially illiterate. When I warned Kate about corporate misconduct, you said I was jealous of her success. But your clothes, your car, your office. Kate gestured helplessly. Were all carefully chosen to maintain my cover while I built something legitimate, I said. While you were all showing off your fraudulently obtained wealth, I was creating real value. Morgan Global employs over 500,000 people worldwide. We build things, create jobs, drive innovation. The federal agents were now visible in the restaurant's entrance. One last thing, I added, reaching into my bag. I pulled out a final document and placed it on the table. This is a list of every employee at your companies from the cleaning staff to middle management. Their jobs are safe. Their pensions are secure. Their futures protected. Why? My father asked quietly. After how we treated you. Because that's the difference between real success and what you all built, I said. Real success isn't about showing off wealth or crushing those who wronged you. It's about creating value, protecting people, building something legitimate. The federal agents entered the restaurant, and I watched as the last vestiges of arrogance drained from my family's faces. This wasn't some power play or negotiating tactic. This was justice. Ms. Morgan, the lead agent stepped forward. We're ready to proceed. Of course. I turned to my family one last time. Choose quickly. The federal agents don't like to be kept waiting. As they scrambled to open their envelopes, my phone buzzed one final time. A message from my CO. Market's going crazy. Ready to show them what real leadership looks like. I looked at my family, their perfect Sunday dinner ruined by the weight of their own choices. Yes, I typed back. It's time to show them what legitimate success looks like. Because that's what real power is, not the ability to destroy those who wronged you, but the strength to build something better from the ashes of their fraud. And this was just the beginning. As I walked toward the private dining room where the governor waited, I heard Tom's voice crack behind me. But what about Sunday dinners? I paused, looking back one last time. Oh, I forgot to mention Golden Crown will be closed for renovations next month. We're upgrading everything, making it truly world-class. For how long? My mother asked weakly. About 6 months. I smiled slightly. Though when it reopens, I doubt you'll be able to afford it on your entry-level salaries. Perhaps you can try the diner down the street. I hear they do a lovely Sunday special. The last thing I saw as I left was Kate bursting into tears, Tom staring at his frozen bank accounts, and my parents holding their envelopes like death warrants. Through the windows I could see reporters gathering outside, drawn by the news of Morgan Global's CEO being revealed. Tomorrow's headlines would be interesting, but for now I had a state governor to meet and a global empire to run. After all, success is the best revenge, especially when served with a perfectly aged wine in a restaurant you own.